Made it to a Friday. I love Fridays because we're going to make this a normal mock draft day because, it's a little bit lighter in terms of the lifting of the hashtag content. All the hay is in the barn. Whatever happens Sunday happens on Sunday. So looking at where the Vikings stand right now, they are the 10th overall pick if the season ended today. Now, that's probably going to go down, especially when they go on a massive winning streak. Also, prediction, Christmas Day, putting it on the table. Vikings beat the Saints. They go to 9-6, and they clinch a playoff spot. Woo! Let's go. But right now, here's where they stand. Take a look at a 7-round Vikings mock draft. Now, mock draft's important. You have to go in with parameters. So, predictions of what's going to happen this offseason. They're going to cut Kirk Cousins. That's right. They're going to eat that $41 million dead, and then they're going to tighten up their belts and pay it off Dave Ramsey style. They're going to cut Anthony Barr. They're going to cut Kyle Rudolph. Riley Reif is going to be retained. So they're going to keep him at left tackle. Ezra Cleveland tearing up at right guard. Ezra eventually could switch over to left tackle, but it is what it is for a year. So going in with those parameters, Viking needs a quarterback of the future, and they need a decent handful of day one contributors since this is a very young football team going forward, at least for a year, probably two, until they get out from underneath that cap situation with Cousins. So let's get into it. At 10, so this is what happened ahead of us at 10. So you got the Lawrence, 1, Jets, Penny Sewell going to the Giants. Penny Sewell and Andrew Thomas, the pride of Georgia, as well as you got Matt Part kicking in the guard. Let's go. Nice. 3, Jaguars get Justin Fields. 4, the Dolphins. So they got their quarterback of the future in Tua. Despite what Skip Bayless is saying, are the Dolphins sold on Tua? Well, if they weren't, why they drafted him at 5? I mean, come on. And so they get their quarterback of the defense, Micah Parsons. Come on, that's nice. 5, Falcons, quarterback of the future, no pants for Trey Lance. Cowboys, first edge rusher off the board, Greg Rousseau. Him with Lawrence and the resurgence of Alden Smith. It's not bad. 7, so Washington decides to go in a different direction. So this could be key. Say that this is the draft order right here. Washington would be the last gasp in terms of getting a quarterback if the Chargers don't trade down because they got Herbert. Well, I mean, the Patriots, are they sold? Probably not. Yeah, but Washington probably could go quarterback here, but they decided to go wide receiver Jamar Chase, pairing him up with scary Terry McLaurin and whoever the hell the quarterback's going to be. Sure. 8, Chargers pick up Patrick Surtain. The second, they got to replace Desmond King. Patriots taking Kyle Pitts, tight end of Florida. Insert Aaron Hernandez joke here. So 10 at the Vikings. So you had your options. So, of course, our guy, Zach Wilson, quarterback of BYU, is on the board. But also there's some other needs that the Vikings have. Wyatt Davis is the best guard in this draft. Potentially Christian Barrymore, defensive interior for Alabama, has been tearing it up. Kwity Paye, the edge rusher from Michigan, has been destroying fools, and not just Minnesota. Caleb Farley. For my money, I mean, Surtain is nice, but I still like Farley from Virginia Tech a little bit better, but he may drop because he opted out for this season, as well as Sam Cosmi, great tackle from Texas. Besides Penny Sewell, I think he is my number 2 offensive lineman, but of course it's still extremely early in the process. But in the end, no screwing around. You cut Cousins. What are you going to do? Start Jake Browning? So go get your freaking guy, Zach Wilson, coming on into Vikingville, going to be the next quarterback of the future of the Vikings. And, I get it. Level of competition. Maybe he's only been on people's radar for this season. Played last year through injury, but great arm, good pocket awareness, decent mobility, throws with anticipation, and does make some of those Patrick Mahomes adjacent type throws. A great leader, extremely humble kid, very coachable. And I think that... Zimmer could still remain. And then Kubiak, they have his next quarterback of the future to groom and grow. So got the quarterback. Everything else, in my opinion, is gravy, but also they double down on quarterback a little bit later on. Drama. So, 3rd round. Now, I fully expect the Vikings to make a move and get back into the 2nd round, whether it's trading assets beforehand or maneuvering during the draft. I do think they get back into the 2nd round, but just sticking and picking with these picks. 3rd round, number 73, you got Walker Little coming out of the Stanford University. So you bought the house, now you buy the insurance. So with Little, he could kick into guard, put Ezra Cleveland at left tackle for the future, which would be fine. Or if you love Ezra Cleveland, in between Bradbury and O'Neal, and I certainly do see the appeal of it, and he's working out at right guard, then Walker Little could be in line to be the left tackle of the future after Riley Reif hangs it up. But Wheeler Walker Little Jr., redshirt senior, 6'7", 320. Now, great athleticism, good technique, nice little punch as well, but also was injured after one game in 2019, so the hay was not really in the barn. 2018, he looked really good as a sophomore, but decided to opt out for the 2020 season, focus on getting his degree, which at Stanford, absolutely respect that, but also could cause his stock to drop. I think he'll test out pretty well during the offseason at the combine and his pro days and whatnot. So it will be intriguing to see where he goes, because I think that maybe a really good combine could still propel him into the first round, even though he essentially hasn't played in 2 years. But if he falls down to the bottom end of day 2, would make a lot of sense, and I think he's got too much potential to pass up. Next up, so you got one side of the trenches. Let's go to the other side. So getting a defensive tackle, Levi Onwuzurike, interior defensive lineman coming out of the Washington University. Now, I love this kid. He's a lot of fun to watch. Number 95 for the Huskies. Does it just pop for you? A redshirt senior, 6'3", 288. He is one of the most explosive defensive tackles in the draft. And overall, so far, it's not a really great high-end defensive tackle class, but I think Levi could fall because of his size. He looks like a yoked-up middle linebacker, so he certainly has room to add some good weight. Played all over the defensive line for Washington, nose tackle, 1-tech, 0-tech, 3-tech, etc. I think in the NFL he's likely going to be strictly a 3-tech, but also put up 31 pressures and 2 sacks last year, is decent against the run, despite the smaller size. But yeah, a lot of fun, great first step. It really is Sharif Floyd adjacent. So through 2 days of this draft, you know that Zimmer would just be like rocking back and forth, like you can't handle it. Hey Zim, you spent 135 on cornerbacks last year, but the Vikings are certainly testing and stressing the importance of cornerback depth this season with all the injuries and as well as the bad play. And I know he'll be happy. He's like, Zach Wilson, quarterback future, cool. I got help on both sides of the trenches. Give me a cornerback, Ricky. Well, Rick finally gives in. Top of day 3, top of the 4th round, Vikings pick up Marco Wilson, cornerback out of the University of Florida, redshirt junior. 6 foot, $190, former 4-star recruit. Came in as same year, same recruiting class as first round pick CJ Henderson. Tore his ACL 2018, hence the red shirt, but is that long, lengthy uber athlete, does like to gamble a little bit, which I will take that. I mean, I again, for cornerbacks, you know, if you're going to get burnt, just take a shot, go for that pick, try to jump a route, go ahead, it's fine. Just don't sit back and, to use a baseball analogy, if you're going to strike out swinging as opposed to looking. So he's a little bit like Jalen Johnson. He's a little bit like Jeff Gladney, El Jefe in that regard. Jalen Johnson, Utah second-round pick for the Bears, having a great rookie year. I really liked him in the draft. Marco reminds me of him to a degree. Not as good of a press corner, but certainly in that area. Had a 70.8 PFF grade last year, had 3 picks as well. So Zimmer gets himself a little bit of cornerback help. Next up, the second of 4 fourth-round picks. Getting some more help, getting some more beef. We got the meats on the offensive line. Alec Lindstrom out of the Boston College University, redshirt junior, 6'4", 300. Name sounds familiar. College sounds familiar. He's the younger brother of Chris Lindstrom. He's the center for the Eagles right now. Does certainly have enough athleticism to play left guard for the Vikings. Also does have some nice power and some anchor as well. A nice little hybrid and can play in both a zone as well as a man scheme. Also, I mean, that Boston College, man, they're getting after it. Like, there's a reason why A.J. Dillon was a beast last year, because Zion Johnson, a guy who I highlighted before, could be a great guard in this league as well. Currently playing left tackle for them, as well as Tyler Vrabel, going to be coming out of Boston College, probably going to be in the mix in the draft as well. So, man, a lot of offensive line talent up there. But the Vikings doubling down, first 5 picks on offensive line. Everyone shut your trap. Even though the offensive line's starting to gel, man. They're looking good. Next up, third of the 4 fourth-round picks. Going on the other side of the ball, but going outside this time. So picking up Malcolm Koonce, the edge rusher from the University of Buffalo. Senior this year, 6'3", 248. Last year put up 45 pressures and 8 sacks, 11 tackles for loss, and 3 forced fumbles in the MAC. This season, the MAC is back. Jack, first game this year, had a sack and 2 tackles for loss. First game back in MACtion. And with Koonce, he is a long athlete who does get after it on the edge. Great motor as well. A little bit undersized, also not really necessarily about that run game life, but also, I mean, if he was 6'5" and was about the run game life, he would be like a second round pick plus. So this is what you get in the fourth round. You do get some incomplete guys that don't check all the boxes, but certainly it has a ton of potential. Give him a couple of years behind Afadi, behind Anil, behind DJ Wanham. Situational pass rusher, bring it. Next up, last of the 4 fourth-round picks. Cool. At 139, Vikings taking a safety. Greg Eisworth, the second, coming out of the Iowa State University. Redshirt senior, 6 foot 204. Now, depending on what happens to Anthony Harris, I think he walks in free agency. But picking up a safety to replace him, even though Eisworth, not really the coverage guy, but at this stage is taking talent for talent's sake. One of the biggest hitting safeties in the draft, great against the run. You basically got an extra linebacker there. Team captain, team leader, gets him lined up in coverage, calls the defense, great instincts as well. Weaknesses, it's sort of like Harrison Smith, where he's solid in deep coverage. If you ask him to man up on someone, but great instincts, going to be down in the box, going to be doing a lot of things. He really is a diet Harrison Smith. A nice little pickup in the fourth round there. Next up, into the fifth round, Vikings. Now, Zachy needs a wide receiver. Oh, okay. Well, Irv Smith Jr. is de facto wide receiver, so why not get another move tight end in the mix as well? Again, you're down Kyle Rudolph. Fifth round, picking up Tre McKitty, coming out of the University of Georgia. Senior, 6'5", 245. And also, again, this is under the assumption that Rudy gets cut. Irv, tight end 1. You need a little bit of tight end 2. Gronklin is a perfectly fine tight end 3. But bring in some McKitty, where all the potential in the world hasn't really panned out so far. Formerly of Florida State, he racked up 50 catches, 520 yards, and 2 touchdowns in 20 overall games in 3 years at Tallahassee. Decided to transfer, taking his talents up to Athens. 3 catches, 57 yards through 2 games. Again, not a ton of college production, but this is a traits-based pick. I think he'll test amazing at the combine. I think he'll have great speed and agility. Like, we're talking probably a little bit less than Noah Fant, but probably in the Eric Ebron territory. But of course, not without the college production. But he is the classic F move joker tight end. Call it whatever you will. You can split him out, put him in the slot, run a little YY on the both sides with Irv Smith Jr. It'll be great. And with Irv being way ahead of schedule in terms of being an inline blocker, I don't mind having 2 receiving tight ends at the top of the pecking order. Plus, Gronklin can also get after it as a tight end 3. Next up, second of the 2 fifth-round picks. So I'm a big advocate of drafting a quarterback every year, and the fact that Spielman's only drafted 1 non-first-round quarterback since 2008, and that was a 7th-round pick in Nate freaking Stanley, got to make up for lost time. So, yeah, we're going to do it. 5th-round pick, Sam Ehlinger, coming out of the University of Texas. We Cousins Zach Wilson, but hopefully it doesn't work out like that. But he's senior, 6'3", 231. Now, he is Austin, Texas royalty. Born and raised, went to high school in Austin. I'm sure he loves him some Franklin barbecue as well. Was a 4-star recruit. 1,650 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 picks through 6 games this season. Now, he's a really good college quarterback, well, to a degree, but he doesn't have the strongest arm. He's not the most accurate, and he is prone to inconsistency, but kid is a gamer. He really is. He's gritty and can get it done in some high leverage situations. As you saw last Saturday, comeback win in Stillwater, number 6, Oklahoma State. Big time touchdown throw in the fourth quarter as well as overtime. And there is you could say like Diet Tebow. That comparison's been out there. I wouldn't kick it out of bed for eating crackers. But he does have a little bit of Case Keenum magic to him. He does. Like, stylistically, not the same guy, but just a not impressive dude, but then you got to have it, and all of a sudden he comes up with it. Yeah, I mean, kid's a competitor too. He ran SMU Shane Buechele out of town. Buechele might actually even be drafted ahead of him on day 3. But, 90.1 PFF grade last year. And if it's a spot where Ehlinger comes in and pushes Wilson, and Wilson pushes Ehlinger, I don't see a problem with it. Like, I know the whole cliche is if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have 1. No, that's not true. You have 2 good quarterbacks, which is kind of nice. Next up, into the 6th round. So finally going wide receiver because Zachy and Sam need a tall receiver. Pick up Nico Collins, the wide receiver out of Michigan. He's senior this year, 6'4", 222. Now, he was a COVID opt-out. I would have liked to see him play this year, but is what it is. And he is the classic outside the numbers X receiver, big body, go up and get it red zone type dude. And not a burner, but uber physical. He does remind me a little bit of Michael Pittman Jr. coming out of USC last year, second round pick to the Colts. But also his production at Michigan, he was never really a true wide receiver one. Like, he had nice numbers last year, 37 catches, 729 yards, 7 touchdowns. 7 touchdowns really big, a big red zone threat. But he was behind Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's on the Browns now, as well as Ronnie Bell, who's probably going to be in the draft mix as well. So it'll be interesting to see what he could have done this year as a more first option, but yeah, is what it is. I think that he's probably seen as an early day 3 pick for now. I don't think that he's going to test phenomenally, but also that's not really part of his game. Just having a power forward playing that wide receiver outside the number spot, I think that's going to be him. Next up, 2 picks to go. So doubling back down on the defensive line, getting another defensive interior guy. LaBryan Ray, coming out of the University of Alabama. Senior defensive tackle, 6'5", 292. Now, 5-star recruit. He was a big-time recruit. He's the number 2 defensive end in the country in the 2017 class behind Iowa's A.J. Epinesa. Played everywhere on the defensive line. Played defensive tackle, some defensive end, played some Leo. He's out there, but he's never really developed into a premier pass rusher. You could say, a big supporting cast in Alabama, full of 4- and 5-star recruits, sure, but he's never really taken that leap. And physically, I don't know if he's going to, but still a very solid contributor. 5.5 sacks through 23 games at Bama. Missed all but 3 games last season with an elbow injury. And it's not an overall sexy pick, but just a nice thick body to the adding to the defensive interior that has been missing. And now he could play inside in the 4-3. He could play 5-tech defensive end if the Vikings add some more 3-4 looks as well. Plus, maybe Patterson can coax a little bit more of that pass rushing potential out of him as well. But I think at this stage of the game in the 6th round, it's a great value. Lastly. So, we could go with J.D. Spielman here. TBD what his draft stock is going to be. He might go undrafted. He might go 4th round, right? Depending on what happens with him at TCU. But the Vikings have this thing where they always seem to draft a late round linebacker. And Spielman does this because it reminds him of him. And the Vikings have done really well just replacing backup linebackers by taking these late round guys. So this year's no different. KJ Britt coming out of Alabama. Auburn. Yeah, Alabama, Auburn at the end. Roll Tide, War Eagle. Always getting that late round linebacker. Senior, 6', 235. Britt is a leader, team captain, tackling machine at middle linebacker. Last year, 68 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 3.5 sacks. Now, he's out after 2 games this year. He's got torn ligaments in his thumb, which could cause his draft stock to tumble. May go undrafted, but late in the 7th round. Yeah, not a plus athlete, but I think you could see him playing a lot of really good special teams, as well as backing up Kendricks. And also, people complain, it's like, well, why are you drafting this guy to do this specifically on the roster? Why aren't you drafting starters in the 7th round? Because it's hard to draft starters in the 7th round, right? Because we said in the 4th round, hell, 2nd and 3rd round, these are not complete prospects, right? If they were perfect prospects, they would be 1st and 2nd round picks, right? So all these guys do have some things that they can't do, but what the good teams do is they focus on what they can do. And if you have a 7th round pick that turns into a 4-year special teams ace as well as backup linebacker, that is a win. That is a big time win. So think of him as like a 7th round version of Kentrell Brothers, and then you move on, and then you replace him 2-3 years later with another late round linebacker. Circle of life. It's perfect. So that's what you do at this stage of the draft. But yeah, that's it. So you get your quarterback of the future, you get some help on the offensive line. I think Little and Lindstrom could potentially vie for that starting left guard spot if the Vikings do retain Riley Reif. And then eventually maybe Little kicks out to left tackle, or of course Ezra Cleveland could kick out there as well. Onwuzurike, I think, comes in, just adds that immediate first step pressure, that quickness, that penetration at that 3-tech spot that the Vikings seem to refuse to try to get with James Lynch, but whatever. Marco Wilson, come on down. You're the next cornerback to probably going to have to play all the snaps next year, pending on injuries. Malcolm Koonce, edge rusher extraordinaire, coming in. Nice little project for Andre Patterson. Also, so it was nice to have that undersized outside speed rush with Yannick for like the week he was here. But now you pick that up in Malcolm Koonce. Then also you get Greg Eisworth II coming in, a box safety, diet Harrison Smith, backup Harrison Smith, looper Harrison Smith. Sure, why not? Doubling down on quarterback Sam Ehlinger, backing up Zach Wilson, as well as, hell, throwing Jake Browning, throwing Nate Stanley. It's a youth movement at quarterback. Let's go. Also, you got the tight end Tre McKitty, big move tight end, big time red zone option as well. Same thing with Nico Collins. You basically got two tall receivers or small tight ends. So there you go. And also LaBryan Ray, utility defensive lineman in the 6th round. I think it's a great value. Plus KJ Britt, absorbing a ton of special teams work. So that's it. That's our 7-round Vikings mock draft as of now, heading to week 9. What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments section below. Subscribe for daily Vikings takes. Want to support that work, post some in the Venmo. But until next time, Skull, production value.